The MLB trade deadline is less than a month away, which means it's time for me to tell you one player from every team in Major League Baseball that will be traded at the deadline. These are not players that these teams will trade for. These are guys that they're going to trade off of their roster. Before we get going into it, make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on any of the content. Drop a like on the video. It helps grow the channel, helps the video out a ton. And let me know in the comment section down below who you think is going to be traded this deadline. Of course, big shout out to today's sponsor, PrizePicks. You'll hear more from them later. Let's get going into this video. The first player I think that's going to be traded at the deadline by their team is the Red Sox, and that's Jarren Duran. Duran has had a lot of weird stuff come out about him over the last few days. Doesn't seem like he's a great fit in the clubhouse. Seems like there's a lot of off-the-field issues, kind of ego stuff, which makes me sad because I like Jarren Duran as a player, but you couple that with the fact that he's playing so poorly, feels like it might be time for a change of scenery for a guy who's been hinted at being traded over the last few years. I don't think the Red Sox are going to get a haul back for him by any means, and I do think that this might be an addition by subtraction type of move for the Red Sox organization, but I do think it has to happen because unfortunately for Duran and Red Sox fans, a 609 OPS over 87 games so far this season, it's just really not cutting it, and if there's other issues that are causing problems, it just doesn't seem like a net positive for a guy who has been really good in the past. It might be time for the Red Sox to move on, which is why I think Duran ultimately gets traded. But first, I want to give a quick shout to today's sponsor, PrizePicks, America's #1 sports picks app. Use my code HMA to get $50 in lineups instantly as soon as you play your first $5 lineup. So click the link in the description right now to download the PrizePicks app, and again, use our code HMA to get $50 in lineups instantly as soon as you play your first $5 lineup. Because PrizePicks is so easy to use. Simply select more or less on a few different players, put them into your lineup, and then see how they do. For my picks, I went with more than 4 strikeouts for Michael King against the Kansas City Royals. I went with more than 5 strikeouts for Gage Jump against a very left-handed heavy Nationals lineup. And then I went for more than 3.5 strikeouts for Michael McGreevy going up against the Diamondbacks. Not to mention, PrizePicks is also available in most states, including California, Texas, New York, even the state of Florida. So what are you waiting for? Download the PrizePicks app right now by clicking the link in the description and use my code HMA when you sign up to get $50 in lineups instantly as soon as you play your first $5 lineup. Thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's video. Let's get back to it. Next up for the Rays, we're going to go with a kind of prospect major league-ish player. That's Carson Williams. The Rays draft a ton of shortstops every single year. They have a ton of shortstop depth. And while Carson Williams might come up to the major league level again and play some shortstop, I think it wouldn't be a bad time to consider moving on from him when you kind of can get some value at that position from other players. Carson Williams has been a top 100 prospect before. He's been a top 10 prospect according to MLB Pipeline, number 11 according to Baseball America before last season, and number 7 according to Baseball Prospectus. I think that his prospect shine has faded a little bit, but this is still a guy who can give you some plus defense up the middle with some decent power. There are swing and miss concerns, but in a trade to get better for the major league roster this year, I could see the Rays moving on from Carson Williams. In a similar regard, I could see the Yankees moving on from Elmer Rodriguez right now. Rodriguez is still a top 100 prospect in baseball, and I do think that at the major league level, he will be a good pitcher. He's got really good stuff. The Yankees would move Elmer Rodriguez in a trade where they are making their team better right now. And I do think that because he's so young, has control, and again, has really good stuff, there's a world where the Yankees can improve upon the major league pitching or hitting right now where Elmer Rodriguez can be on the team right now, but he might not be better than the options that they could grab on the market. So Elmer Rodriguez would be involved in a trade where they're making an instant impact, a quick trade now type situation. It's not because of a lack of faith of Rodriguez. It's just who can help the team in 2026 at the current moment. And I think other players could in a trade where he's involved. For the Baltimore Orioles, I still feel like they're going to trade Taylor Ward. They're not completely out of it in the American League East just yet, but I feel like Ward in a position that you could get a lot back for him. He's on an expiring contract. Seems like it'd be a decent decision. Now, he has been really good for the Orioles this year. 387 on base, a 113 OPS plus. If they truly think they're going to compete in the second half and try and make the playoffs, you probably don't move on from him. Instead, you move some prospects to get more major league players. But this could be one of those rare scenarios where you trade Taylor Ward for another major league asset that could help you, similarly to how they traded Grayson Rodriguez for him this offseason. I wouldn't be shocked if the Orioles don't move on from him. I don't think they have to, but his name's always going to float around in trade rumors. And then finally, for the Toronto Blue Jays, I think there's a world where Arjun Nimmala could be traded. Nimmala is still extremely young, and the Blue Jays would be getting rid of him at a time where he's shown the ability to be a good ball player, and I think he's going to stick at shortstop. shortstop. He's got good power. The swing decisions are getting better. This would be a trade where you're cashing on Nimmala to get a big piece. In a world where Joe Ryan gets traded, maybe you move Nimmala for that. If there are some big controllable assets, I think Nimmala could be on the move. And I'm going to be honest, I don't really know who the Blue Jays are going to move. They're in a weird spot, but this would be one of the more valuable assets that I think could be on the move for the Blue Jays if they wanted to make that decision. He is a good prospect. Keeping it in the American League, AL Central, Chicago White Sox, Edgar Quero. I just don't think that a backup catcher that hits and feels like Edgar Quero does is something that they particularly need to hold on to. And other teams, I think, could use Edgar Quero more so than the White Sox do right now, especially with Kyle Teal being back. Quero's on the 40-man roster. He's in the minor leagues. Kind of makes the roster a little bit clunky. I could see them parting ways with Quero for a kind of a high-risk, high-reward arm out of the bullpen, even on a rental. I think you could find some really interesting pieces here for a guy like Quero, who, let's be honest again, hasn't really hit and doesn't play great defense. He's a backup catcher really at best at this point. Still young though, so that's the upside, and he's cheap and controllable. For the Twins, it's kind of a two-headed approach. If they really are pushing for it, you're definitely going to hold on to Ryan Jeffers, even though I think he would have the most value of the two. But more realistically, I could see Victor Caratini being traded. A lot of teams could use a catcher, especially one that's a switch hitter, and Victor Caratini's been great since filling in for Ryan Jeffers. And for the Twins, I just, again, don't think you need to carry three catchers at one time, especially when Jeffers is back if you're keeping him. Caratini does have a little bit more control, so maybe that would be the incentive to keep him over Jeffers. But because he's a switch hitter, I think he'd have some good value, and this might be a good time for the Twins to move off him. Anytime you can get value for a backup catcher, I feel like you have to make that move. And for some teams, this might be the best catcher on their roster, especially playoff contenders, like the Yankees. For the Detroit Tigers, you gotta trade Jack Flaherty. I feel like we've seen him pitch well of late, which is really nice for the Tigers' rotation. But for a team that does need to improve on the bullpen side, you could even grab some more bats. It's never going to be a problem. I feel like Flaherty could be on the move, especially because he's a free agent at the end of the year. Like, I like Casey Mize more than I like Jack Flaherty moving forward this year. I like Troy Melton. I like Cater Montero. Obviously, Tarek Skubal's not going anywhere right now. And Framber Valdez will eventually come back from the bereavement list. Tigers have done it before. I think you try and trade Jack Flaherty if you can to open up this roster a little bit more. It's a little bit risky always getting rid of started pitching depth, but I think this would be the guy over Mize. Mize is just kind of too good right now. For the Cleveland Guardians, I think they might move on from Angel Hanao. He's a borderline top 50 prospect in the game, and I do like him. Like, he's having a great year in the minors. I don't necessarily think they have to move on from him, but they just kind of have a logjam right now, and Hanao really doesn't have a position at the major league level, and to be honest, he looks ready. If the Guardians wanted to go make a big splash, they would definitely use Hanao as, again, he's a borderline top 50 prospect. This would be for a game-changing piece. This would not be for a rental. This would not be for anybody who's just kind of fringy. This is a big-name move if you were to move Hanao. And for a Guardians team, moving Hanao would get them the most back, because he really is. He's a good little player. And the fact they can play all the infield positions, very valuable. For the final team in the AL Central, the Kansas City Royals, I think they have to trade Seth Lugo. I don't know what his value is going to be. I don't know if you're going to get that much back. But for a guy who turns 37 in November, you have a full season of him next year and then a team option afterwards, you probably just want to move on from him. He is a little bit old. A 4.5 ERA isn't good. It's also not the worst. There are teams down the stretch that would love to get the innings that Seth Lugo offers. The contract's not the worst by any means. The contract's not great. Getting $21.5 million next season, and of course the rest of this season, you have to pay out that contract, so you might have to give some money with it. But if that means you get a better prospect, I think if you're the Royals, you got to make this move. And then finally, let's head out west, the AL West. For the Seattle Mariners, the obvious choice is Luis Castillo. It just feels like the Mariners and Castillo are basically at the end of that relationship. He hasn't been pitching very well. The usage of him has been bizarre, and they just have a lot of better pitchers. So you would move on from Luis Castillo, hoping to maybe take another big contract from another team, someone that they want to get rid of. I think Castillo in a different ballpark, different scenario, might go back to pitching better, but this is not the same Castillo that we saw years ago. Even last season, he's not nearly as good. The contract's not the greatest, but I do think that the Mariners can move on from this, especially if they eat a little bit of the money. Just feels like it's time for both of these guys, Castillo and the Mariners, to go their separate ways, especially with all the amazing young pitching coming up the pipeline. For the Houston Astros, I think someone might consider taking a flyer on Christian Javier only if some money is traded back or you take on another bad contract. I'm not going to lie, I feel like I could see a switch between the Mets. The Mets get Christian Javier, the Astros get Kodai Senga, two contracts that nobody particularly wants, even out the money so that both sides are getting the same. Guys who just need change of scenarios, change of scenery, have been good before but but haven't been good in years. Javier, of course, has dealt with the injuries. That's the biggest thing, but it's a very weird player to move in a very weird team. I don't fully know where they're going. I wouldn't be shocked, though, if someone wanted to take a flyer on Javier, if it made sense. For the Texas Rangers, I think you'd consider moving on from Josh Smith at this point. He is a borderline utility man on the roster. He got sent down. He's kind of clogging up the 40-man. At best, he plays multiple positions well defensively with about a league average bat, but you do see the variance in a guy like Josh Smith where he's just not cutting it this past season. Again, he got demoted down in the minors. I know they deal with a lot of injuries and it's nice to always have depth, but for a Rangers team who I think is trying to make the playoffs this year, I don't know if Josh Smith truly has a spot on this roster, especially when they get healthy. For the Athletics, not a lot of options I particularly love on this team. I think Jeffrey Springs is probably one that gets moved just because he has a team option for next season. He would be a free agent at the end of the year. You get him out of that horrible pitcher's park in Sacramento and he probably just pitches better. At the absolute worst, you have a multi-inning lefty out of the bullpen. I think Jeffrey Springs ends up getting moved. Seems to be the obvious choice here. Just a bad fit in Sacramento, and he's on an expiring contract with an option if you like what you see. And then finally, for the American League West and the American League as a whole, the Los Angeles Angels, I mean, it's time to move on from Jo Adell, right? Angels fans, you're not competing this year. You're not competing next year. I don't even really know if you compete in 2028, and that's when Jo Adell becomes a free agent. I think you got to cash in. He's still 27. He has the year plus of control. His play is inconsistent. He plays in the corner outfield. He's a right-handed bat. I just don't know why you would hold on to him if you get any sort of substance back. He's never had an on-base percentage above 300. I know he hit 30 home runs last year, but it's just not helping this team right now. I think we know the player that Jo Adell is, and it doesn't make sense to keep him in Anaheim. It's time for the Angels to trade Adell. Now, to the National League East we go, and getting us started with my New York Mets, they're trading Freddie Peralta. There's a 0% chance he's a Met after the deadline. What a disaster of a season for the Mets, honestly. Disaster season for Freddie Peralta. A 4.66 ERA is the highest he's had since he was a reliever back in 2019 with Juice Balls. He's been terrible. There's no way around it. He's been on the mound. He's been healthy, but the quality of innings has not been bad, and all the underlying stuff doesn't particularly look good either. I really wish the best for Freddie Peralta, and I hope he can bounce back strong. I hope the Mets get something back for him. I think they will. In a market where there's not clear sellers, Freddie Peralta is one of the best arms available. It just might not have been a good fit in New York. He's still got the fastball, the changeup, the slider, just no longer needs to be in Queens. So Freddie Peralta, yeah, the Mets are 100% trading him. Now for a couple teams that are competing. The rest of the National League's kind of in it. The Braves, I think Owen Murphy could be a name that's on the move. Again, depending on the haul back, they're going to need a big name. I think this would be similarly in a Joe Ryan scenario where you're getting years of control, but I don't really think the Twins are necessarily trading him. The Braves do need more starting pitching. Owen Murphy is that, but is he going to be better than what they could get on the market right now? That's something to consider. I'm shocked to see what the Braves do this trade deadline, again, because it's not the strongest farm, and I don't think you want to trade Hartman. So I think it could be Murphy, could be J.R. Ritchie, could be a bunch of these kind of top-end prospects that they have. One of them's going to move. I'm going to go with Owen Murphy just because I think he has the most value in what would be a home run swing. Well, he's not a home run swing because he's a pitcher. But I think if they wanted to go for the big boom, that would be a guy. For the Philadelphia Phillies, I think they eventually, they got to trade Alec Boehm, right? There's no way they don't. I think the Phillies are going to be huge buyers at the deadline. Dave Dombrowski, it feels like the year he pushes the chips in. I think Alec Boehm gets sent out in a trade. Maybe it's to Arizona. They could use a first baseman. I think that would be a great fit in that ballpark for him at that position. They desperately need some help there. I think you would take it for any sort of reliever, truthfully, because the Phillies could use some more bullpen arms, especially with the injuries. Alec Boehm's been horrible. His tenure in Philadelphia has been bizarre. This is by far the worst season I think that he's had as a Philly, and I just think it's time for both of these guys to say goodbye, send Alec Boehm somewhere, and the Phillies bring someone else in. Like a 625 OPS with bad defense, that's just not going to cut it for a team that has World Series aspirations. For the Miami Marlins, I think they could be moving on from Braxton Garrett. Now, this would be trading him at what is probably one of the lowest points of his career. He's not looked good in the 2 appearances he's had thus far, and he does have control through the 2028 season, but the Marlins are in an interesting scenario where Braxton Garrett doesn't really fit into the major league roster, but for other teams could be valuable. Maybe move on from Braxton Garrett to address some of the other weaknesses on this roster. The Marlins are playing great baseball. They're in a position where they can get better, and I think moving on from Braxton Garrett would be a great decision. He's shown the ability to be a good pitcher before, but the Marlins don't really want to care about that right now, I think. Coming off the injuries, it might be time to cash in on Garrett. And then finally, for the Washington Nationals, like, I hate to see it, but would this be the right time to trade Foster Griffin? Now, he's been phenomenal this year, 110 innings, a 2.70 ERA, a whip barely at 1. He has control. He doesn't become a free agent until 2031. Like, it's a bizarre scenario. And I don't think the Nationals have to trade him by any means, but is this the piece that they actually cash in on? Because they're not trading C.J. Abrams. They're not trading James Wood. I think they would have to fall off a little bit. There's a lot of time before the deadline, and I hope the Nationals keep playing good ball. But maybe you trade Foster Griffin because you could get a ton back for him. I think it'd be an interesting move. Something that I think the Nationals front office is definitely going to explore at the worst. National League Central, Cincinnati Reds, you've got to trade J.J. Bleday, right? It feels like there's no world where you don't move on from him. Again, I know he's another weird guy who like kind of has control-ish, but at the same time, feels like a perfect fit spot for Bleday. He's played really good ball. He's a former number 4 overall pick from the Marlins. There's a lot of teams out there that could use a left-handed bat in the outfield, and especially the ability to play center field. I think this would be a good move by the Reds to try and cash in on J.J. Bleday, who is a reclamation project. It worked. Go get yours now. And he's having a great year. 16 homers, 846 OPS plus at 129. So really good year, but is he truthfully a part of the future plans? I don't think you want to let the time decide. I think you should cash in. If they get a good deal back, of course. For the Pittsburgh Pirates, I think they're going to be buyers. I think they're going to be going for it. And I think that they're probably going to have to move on from Antoine Kelly. Kelly's like a top 10 prospect in their organization. Has electric stuff from a smaller size, which is pretty cool. Like he throws 100. I think out of the pen down the stretch for some teams, he could be interesting. I think making sure that his development as a starting pitcher continues would be really good. He's only 22. And again, he throws 100 with a nasty slider sweeper. Clean up the pitch shapes a little bit. And Antoine Kelly could be an arm that I think teams would be interested in a move where the Pirates would be moving him to get better. Go and get some pieces that would help them right now, whether that be in the bullpen, in the lineup, whatever it is. I think Antoine Kelly could be on the move this trade deadline for the Pirates. We've heard this name a lot. Matt Shaw, probably on the move for the Chicago Cubs, currently on the IL, but because of the control, I don't think teams would particularly care. This would be for a retooling, rebuilding team rather than a team trying to win right now, and the Cubs might have to move him if they want to go out and get some pitching and bullpen help because they definitely need it with all the injuries that they've dealt with. The Cubs are in a position where they can be a World Series contender. They very much are. Do you want to get over that hump? Do you want to be able to beat the Dodgers? You're going to have to give up some of these players, and I think Matt Shaw is the big one that everyone's got circled. He's shown the ability to play a bunch of different positions. He's hitting well since the batting stance adjustment. He's kind of blocked on this Cubs roster. I think he's going to be traded almost 100%. As long as the Cubs go out and get a legit piece, you wouldn't be moving him for a one-year rental that's not particularly good upside. Has to be a playoff pitcher. For the St. Louis Cardinals, I don't know, maybe they trade Hunter Dobbins. I'm not quite sure what the Cardinals are going to do this trade deadline. I like a lot out of what Chaim Bloom has already done this organization, and I do think that they're going to be soft buyers, but the fact that a lot of the teams that are conventional sellers right now don't truly exist and don't really have what the Cardinals need, I don't see a big name getting moved, and Hunter Dobbins, while he does have a lot of control, he's not on the major league roster. He's on the 40-man. It does feel like would be somebody that you could move to a team for a pitcher if you wanted to go that route. So I'm going to go with Hunter Dobbins. He's been okay this year, but I don't think as good as they had hoped, which makes him available. And then last up in the NL Central, we've got the Brewers. Maybe they trade Luis Pena. They've given some contracts to other middle infield prospects. Luis Pena is a great prospect. He's only 19 years old. I don't think they have to trade him. He's been good in high A this year. The power hasn't shown up though, so maybe that's a concern. He's still hitting over 300 with a near 400 on base percentage. He's a great prospect. This would be for a home run move as well. Like, I don't think you trade a borderline top 25 prospect in the game unless you were getting some serious help. Maybe the Brewers do that. Maybe they don't care because he's so far away from the major league level and they just want to keep him in there in what is the best farm system in minor league baseball. But it's a name to keep an eye out for. I think if the Brewers are going for that big trade, Luis Pena is probably the headliner. Brewers rock. They should go for the home run. All right, let's talk about the National League West now. For the Los Angeles Dodgers, I think the big name that could be on the move is Zaire Hope. I know I'm giving you another prospect. Zaire Hope is kind of sick. He's a top 25 prospect in interleague baseball at the absolute worst. At the absolute best, he's a top 10 guy. He does strike out a bunch, but you kind of don't care because the power output's great. He's a freak athlete. He gets on base a ton, really good plate discipline. The ceiling there is an all-star caliber player without a doubt, maybe even superstar levels. And this year, he's been incredible. 885 OPS as a 21-year-old in AA, 19 homers, 80 RBIs, 14 stolen bases. Similarly, if they go out and get a big name, I think Zaire Hope's going to be be the big outfield prospect that they move on from. I don't think it's DePaula. I don't think it's Sirota. Maybe it's Quintero, but I'm going to go with hope. For the Arizona Diamondbacks, I think the player that they eventually move on from at the deadline is going to be Ryan Thompson. He's had a really good season, 2.88 ERA. He's a good reliever. He's funky. He gives a different look. I think this is super valuable, not only for teams down the stretch, but in the playoffs, being able to change speeds, looks, the orientation of the ball coming in. That's something that I think is really good. And Ryan Thompson is one of the weirdest looking pitchers in baseball, and he's pitching well. He's on an expiring contract. Diamondbacks fans, I'm sorry. I don't think you're making the playoffs. Maybe if you get hot before the deadline, you hold on to him. But if there's any sort of sign that you're not really going for it, this might be a move that you have to make because he's 34 years old on an expiring contract. Go get something for him. Maybe even a trade for Alec Boehm with the Phillies. Maybe that's something they consider. Kind of love that idea. It's the San Diego Padres, so we got them trading a top prospect, and I think Ethan Salas could be on the move this year. Luis Camposano looks really good, and if he looks that good behind the dish, and if the Padres again want to buy at the deadline and they're not moving Mason Miller, I think Salas is the best prospect, and if they're going to go out and get the best player, you're going to have to move your top guys, so Salas could be on the move. He's amazing behind the dish defensively. At the plate, I still have some questions, but he has improved this season. He's looked really good. A 284 average, 353 on base, 776 OPS in Double-A as a 20-year-old. He's definitely a talented player. His production oscillates, but this can be a major league catcher. AJ Preller doesn't care. He'll trade anybody if it means that you're winning. For the San Francisco Giants, I mean, they have to trade Luis Rise, right? You have to move on from him, and he has to be a Tampa Bay Ray. It just makes so much sense. He's having a phenomenal season, and now he's shown he can be a plus glove at second base. This is a good baseball player. This version of Luis Rise is awesome, and teams are going to want him. They're going to offer things. Buster Posey, you better trade him because your team stinks. He shouldn't be on it past 2026. He's hitting 330 again, 829 OPS with that defense. Love the way Luis Rise is playing. He's got to be on the move. He's going to be one of the most valuable bats that gets moved at the deadline. He's now an underrated player. And then last but certainly not least, for the Colorado Rockies, I think you moved Mickey Moniak, right? It's probably time. He's been really good for 2 seasons in Colorado. He's been incredible this year in 60 games. 15 homers, 38 RBIs, and 900 OPS. He plays the outfield. He's more of a corner guy now, but a left-handed power bat in the outfield or at DH, even if we want to platoon him and let him only face righties, I think this is a no-brainer. The Rockies have gotten so much smarter, and as much as the Rockies fans like Mickey Moniak, you've got to see the value he could bring to this organization. He's not a part of the future plans. It's time to cash in. So there it is. Every player, each team is going to trade this trade deadline. I'd love to know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Drop a like on the video if you enjoy it, as well as subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of the content. You can follow me on all my social media. GiraffeNeckMarc links are in description. That's where I'm going to wrap it up. You know the drill from here on out. YouTube recommends you watch this video. This is my most recent upload, so click through those if you have not yet seen them. Thank you guys for watching. Catch you on the next one. Bye.